Okay. Sorry about that. I had to climb in. It's quite a climb. David Zaritsky for the Bond Experience. Welcome back. Well, as you can see by the thumbnail, this is one of these debates, and this time we have pulled out all the stops. Of course, this is going to be bouncing around to all the many locations that you know, but first we've got to go to one location and retrieve my nemesis? That's the wrong thing. My brother-in-arms. Introducing again, Calvin Dyson. Calvin, welcome.
Hello. Hi, David. Thank you very much for having me on. I like that you said nemesis there. We're kind of like the Christatos and Columbo here of this
I know, and I'm worried which one I'm which.
I know. I wish I'd thought that analogy through, actually.
I believe it. Well, listen, this we are doing for your eyes only, and I want to start by saying that first of all, I was very surprised that I was going to be the defender and you were going to be the challenger. For some reason, I thought you were kind of umbrella lover of Roger Moore movies across the board. Is this not the case?
I mean, I do love, he is my favorite. I will, like anyone that he's in, I will find some enjoyment in. And For Your Eyes Only is a film that I like, but certainly when it comes to, if I'm in the kind of like a Roger Moore Bond mood and I open up the box set, this is the last of his films that I would go to if I were to sort of pick one to relax. Even sort of, it's kind of, yeah, I think I might even prefer The Man with the Golden Gun and A View to a Kill. I'm sorry, David, I know you'll hate the sound of that, but...
I'm sorry, is this thing on? Really? Like this, you would rather go to A View to a Kill and watch the TV edition of James Bond than actually go to For Your Eyes Only, one of the most incredible, intriguing Roger Moore romps.
Is this not the TV version of Bond? I thought this was the TV.
Oh, all right. We're lacing up the gloves. I feel it already. And by the way, because it's Calvin and I adore him, besides the setting, please take note, when I climbed in here, the monks allowed me to do this. I actually wore head to toe. It's not to toe, but you can't see below the waist. Full Roger Moore regalia. You've got to give me extra points for that, right?
Oh, definitely. Like I'm so impressed. It's great, and you've even got like Diana Rigg's parrot there in the background as well, which is great.
Absolutely, Max. We've got Max right there. Max. He's dead. He's stuffed, but PETA said that they wouldn't come down on me, which is nice. And by the way, more love here before we get started, and then no love throughout the whole thing. It's 88 degrees out, and I'm wearing 2 layers of sweater and a shirt, but this is what I do for the Bond community.
You are dedicated. That's great. Maybe you'll be like replicating the sweating that Roger Moore was doing when they were on filming this thing, and they told him that he needed to get more than like 6 feet off the ground, which he did not like to do. Apparently, he was very upset about that.
Oh, Roger, he's such a gentleman. We love him. All right, so I'm going to be a gentleman and actually give you the first word. We always like to start these discussions off with just kind of a general, like, what do we think about the movie? Not too much detail, but you gave us a little bit of taste. But For Your Eyes Only, what's your overview?
Yeah, I mean, I like it. This isn't, it's not at the bottom of my overall list of all of them, but certainly when it comes to the Roger ones, it's the one that I probably find the least entertaining. And I think a big part of that, and this only really occurred to me for this watching, which I've never really thought about this too much before, but I feel like a lot of things are being held back with this one, and I feel like that's as a result of them obviously rebooting after the extravagance of Moonraker and The Spy Who Loved Me. This is a deliberately more grounded affair, but as a result of that, I feel like rather than being sort of shifting into different territory, they're in similar territory, but just kind of pulling back on what I really enjoyed about the last couple. And particularly when it comes to Roger's performance as well. I love him. I think he's a terrific Bond actor, severely underrated actor, but I do feel like he's being caged in. And I feel that's the case for a lot of elements here. I'm sure we'll get into it in more detail.
Yeah.
But this is one of your favorites then.
It is. Well, Live and Let Die is like the top of Roger Moore for me, but this follows suit, and I think it's for all the reasons you may have stated that you don't like it, which is, it is a more serious Bond. He he gets into a lot of things. Things are taken even from other films. Perfect example. Here we go. This is, as I'm sure you remember. Hold on. Don't rush. Don't push. And of course, you remember this part, which I thought was incredibly interesting. Look at this, Teresa Bond. They kind of went back to one of the previous movies. That's a pretty somber, dire note. What do you think?
Oh yeah, totally. It's really interesting listening to John Glenn's director commentary for this, because he kind of talks about this whole opening with Blofeld, where they couldn't really say it was Blofeld, but they did want to kind of link this to On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and John Glenn does say something along the lines of Blofeld's in the neck brace because last time we saw him, he had his neck broke. He seems to have written Diamonds Are Forever out of continuity. But, I think that's interesting that we have a director who very clearly has a preference for a certain style of the older ones. He clearly really likes On Her Majesty's Secret Service, and he wants to try and replicate that. And similar to Peter Hunt, director of that film, John Glenn was an editor, then he became a director. And I feel like that's a really important little bit of connective tissue he's making to that film, which is really nice.
I agree, and by the way, I'm a huge defender of the script of this film, and I'll tell you why I opened up with that shot to kind of get your point of view on it, which was actually very introspective. And that is, I love how things are woven in, and I think that there might be a plot point that you have issue with later in the film that I want to defend using that opening shot. And I think that opening shot to set the tone and the tonality of how Bond connects with certain characters is interwoven masterfully. And I haven't been a fan of all of Glenn's stuff, but I think in this particular case, we've got a good one. But I think I'm about to hand over a baton where the challenger, you, maybe gets a score. So Bond takes off in the helicopter and off he goes. What did you think of the Blofeld moment?
It's weird. It's still weird after all these years, because it was obviously they couldn't say Blofeld because of the whole Kevin McClory thing. It was a weird, they're kind of wrapping up the whole Blofeld storyline with this in such an unsatisfying way. Don't get me wrong, I love all the stunts with the helicopter going through London and in the gasworks and stuff. That's all awesome, but for that really prominent character to just be like patted on the head and off he goes, it is a bit weak. How do you feel about it?
I have to give it to you. It's weak in a few different ways because I'm a big fan, and we're going to get into this a little bit later, of the stunts of this film. I think, think about it. It's air, sea, land. I mean, they cover it all. When somebody thinks, oh, this is just a kind of a more simple, laid back, chill Bond film, I actually disagree. Yes, they're not going into space. And yes, there isn't 14 submarines. I get it. But beyond that, it really is covering the bases. However, the execution of this helicopter scene, although masterfully done from a stunt standpoint, is campy. And for me, defending the seriousness of this film, this kind of like intrigue of Bond, it doesn't play. And then even the rear screen and some of these things, some of the in-jokes, just, they don't work.
Yeah, no, I agree. Oh, the delicatessen line. We have to talk about the delicatessen line.
Well, rather than talk about it, let's go back in time a little bit, just for a moment, if we could, to just watch a little something.
Yeah, what we got here then?
Mrs. Lomax, welcome.
Mr. Bond? Oh, I wasn't expecting to see you here today. I thought Thursdays were your day off.
Well, I do like to keep abreast of things, Mrs. Lomax.
I actually think this was masterfully done here. What did you think of this?
Mrs. Lomax? This is me doing my Monty Python, Terry Jones impression. We have my personal favorite, as you know, thank you.
I absolutely love this, though. I mean, you have to understand, and I just watched this a couple days ago in rewatch. I mean, that was beautifully done because there is so much humor and campiness and nonsensicalness to this. You took the Mickey out of the room, which I loved.
Yeah, I mean, it's a bizarre line. It's very memeable. I see it a lot on like Facebook and Twitter, people saying it, which is great. It's some kind of really obscure Cubby Broccoli in joke to do with Kevin McClory or the Mafia or something, and yeah, that's why it's there.
And Was this part of John Glenn kind of, starting out a little bit and, being at the whim of the producers to kind of put certain things in? Because again, and we've talked about this. I love consistency in a Bond film. So give me total camp and I'll eat it up. I mean, The Man with the Golden Gun is right there. And I just defended it against Joe Darlington. No easy feat. But this kind of jumps back and forth a little bit.
I completely agree. And that's one of my, that feels like a moment where they're letting some of their, because I think a lot of their sensibilities, the filmmakers and Roger Moore's, are in the campier sort of space. And that's one of those few moments that kind of seeps through the cracks. And it's just, I think that the next film, Octopussy, kind of handles the whole tone thing an awful lot better. This one feels like it's, there's someone off camera with a bat, sort of like waiting for someone to make any kind of pun so that they can know we're doing it seriously this time.
Yeah, no kidding. And all right, we're gonna jump into some things. Calvin, I'm just gonna say it. I feel kind of bad about what we're about to go through because I think the points for the defense is just going to keep adding up until it's going to be as tall as the mountain that Roger climbs at the end. So let's start with Sheena Easton's amazing song. Please let me hear you belittle that.
I don't mind it. I'll say that. It's not one of my favorites. I like that she's in the credit sequence. I think that's really nice, but it is just kind of carrying on that same tone that Nobody Does It Better set, where it's these kind of soppier ballads. Not one of my least favorites, though. It's just kind of, it's there in the middle somewhere.
So, it's amazing, too, because literally this song has become nearly synonymous with just the whole idea of Bond. That this is, when you hear about Roger Moore and when you have documentaries, you hear this song kind of wafting into the background. It's soft. And I happen to think, because I heard it the other night when I was watching the movie, and I actually paused. Yes, I was actually watching a Blu-ray. I paused something. I paused and I thought, if we got a song like this today, how excited we would be, because it's got energy, but it also has those soft ballad parts, as opposed to the last maybe 2 or 3 songs we've received have not always had that. What do you think?
Oh, now you're really provoking me.
Yeah.
I love, Billie Eilish, Sam Smith, Adele. This isn't a patch on those for me. I don't need them to necessarily have the big belt out moments. I think Billie Eilish kind of does. It builds very nicely.
By the way, I love that you said I'm provoking you. Finally. Finally. This is our 12th debate, and finally I'm provoking you.
Yeah, right. Feel like Writings on the Wall, No Time to Die, Skyfall are all songs that I will pay attention to. For Your Eyes Only is something that is on in the background. I'll say that. For Your Eyes Only is something that when it comes on in the montages, like what you just mentioned, I'm just disappointed it isn't Nobody Does It Better, because I think that's a much better song.
That's a strong one, too. And what do you think about the utilization of For Your Eyes Only during some of the loving parts, when they're supposed to be, and I know we're going to get into the romance and how much you buy into that. But I mean, do you think it supports, those moments pretty well, the song?
I guess so. Yeah. It's something that I don't have much of an extreme opinion on either way. I don't think it's there. And it's fine.
Okay.
Why do you like it as the melody is used in the score?
Yeah, I think. Well, this is where we talk about nostalgia, right? I mean, as a baby of the time of Roger Moore, I remember this eating my cereal in the morning before going to school. It was on the radio everywhere. I remember, going through, the grocery market with my mom, hearing it over the airwaves. I remember people humming it at school and talking about it. And so this song, it just perforated, excuse the pun, my entire life back then. And so when it comes on, I can't help but kind of, wax nostalgia about it. So I'll give it that. Plus, I don't know, for some reason, Nobody Does It Better and For Your Eyes Only are 2 songs that immediately make me think of Roger Moore. And I just get a smile on my face. The association with the man just makes me so happy.
Oh, that's nice. I mean, I think of that for Nobody Does It Better, but I do think that is in like another league. definitely.
I wouldn't argue that. I wouldn't argue that. But let's try something, because
Okay.
I've heard through the grapevine that there's a lot of Bond fans in the Bond community that are not fans of Bill Conti. They think, whoa, what happened to John Barry? This is not this. It's certainly not David Arnold. It's such here's what I also hear. I hear that, my gosh, is it a sign of the times? That noise. But what do you think about Bill Conti's score?
I actually quite like parts of it. Yeah, definitely. It's particularly for like some of the action sequences, the whole drive in the country cue when they're in the Citroen. Really like that. It's I can see why it would annoy people, because it is a little bit disco-y when disco had kind of had its time and had gone by this point. But I think it works with the film, actually. I do quite like it. Where do you stand?
I really enjoy it.
Cool.
I will say, so again, the drive in the country is great. I think the ski chase with the bobsled. And the motorcycles. It has a very, and this is a bit of a cheat, it has a very Olympic sound to it. Dun, 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 dun. They've actually used that music in the 80s as a background to many of like the ABC Wide World of Sports and things like that. So again, it's perforated my childhood memories, but I like it. I think I'm gonna overuse this word, so I want just everybody out there not to ding me for this. Energy. It has a dynamic energy, and I think it fits the film very well.
And I'm gonna ding Moonraker for something, so get ready, folks. This is something that I do often, but to your point about energy, I do agree with that. And Moonraker has one of the least energizing scores, I think. Some of the Moonraker action sequences, whilst the John Barry music is beautiful, the music doesn't get your adrenaline going like I think some of the music anyway does in For Your Eyes Only, which is much better judged.
I totally agree. I mean, and I think the music, I'll keep associating this, fits Roger Moore extremely well in what he's doing. We've got to talk about Roger Moore in this, because this is an interesting type of Roger Moore. I mean, we've got, I've got Octopussy on one side and I've got Moonraker on the other, kind of, the bookends of this film. But a lot of people talk about a dark Roger Moore. I would say we get a very, I'll use the word steely, very steely Roger Moore, and very British. And as an American, people are going to be like, don't jingoism me. I'm just saying, like, he comes across as very British, the way he orders food, which again is very Fleming, the way he treats a situation, even the introduction of himself after the car chase to Melina, he kind of leans in, and I love that shot of him. That's one of my favorite shots of Roger Moore.
Oh, by the way, we haven't been properly introduced, Melina. My name is Bond. James Bond.
Just the whole thing that he creates feels very British. But what did you think of Roger Moore's portrayal in this film?
I mean, like I said earlier, I'm a huge fan of the guy. Like I'm very happy that he is in this film. Saying that, this feels like it should be someone's first Bond film. It feels like tonally it's so different. And I don't think it really fits what he is naturally inclined to do as an actor. This is that like being held back thing that I mentioned earlier on. And he talks about, like, from what I gather from behind the scenes stuff, he had issues with this. He didn't want to, like, famously kick the car off the edge of the cliff in that moment. He just wanted to throw the pin in and let that do the work. He felt that the kick was a bit too aggressive. And I think you feel that watching it. I think you feel that he is being kind of reined in. And I think he's a really good actor. I think he does a fine job with it, but it's not a fun performance, and I want to have fun with a Roger Moore Bond performance.
Yeah, and I think he does a beautiful job performing here. And I love that we are having like a significant, disagreement here in the sense that I think it's the subtleties that he brings. There's one part when he's very famously, I know you love this part, doing
Oh God, the identigraph.
and you literally see him go like this. Like he just kind of like rubs his eyes, like, he's kind of had it, probably like you had it. And I love those miniature subtleties. I also like, if you really watch his facial expressions, now mind you, I was watching this on an 80-inch screen, so I saw every nook and cranny. I think that he was really selling the fact that, and this is where I know you're going to take a different approach. I think his discussions with Melina about revenge.
The Chinese have a saying: before setting out on revenge, you first dig 2 graves.
I don't expect you to understand. You're English.
Are not like, they're not saying, hey, let the old white guys do the revenge. You're the woman that can't quite handle that. I think what he's saying is that once you go down the road of revenge, you become a very dark character, like Bond has become. He has become such a dark, fallible anti-hero. The bad guys have become those individuals. Columbo has become a dark individual, but he doesn't want Melina to become sullied. She's kind of like that dove, and he doesn't want that dove to become winged in any way. And I think the discussions he has and the portrayal that he creates is really effective in doing that.
I disagree completely.
Excellent.
Well, I think that on paper, everything that you say is true. In reality, it doesn't work because Roger's version of Bond, we've never seen anything in the context of that universe where he has suffered any ill will from taking vengeance or being a killer or anything like that. Even the film kind of makes a joke out of him getting revenge against like the one guy who you really want him to kill, really. Yeah. So it did feel to me like it is the bloke sort of being like, no, this is what we do, you don't do this. And I think that's confounded by the very end where Melina's about to kill Christatos. Bond steps in, no, you can't do this. And she's like, out of my way. It's like, right, well, you need to dig those 2 graves. And while he's having this, Christatos is pulling out the knife and gonna kill them. Meanwhile, Columbo then has to kill Christatos. And it's like, well, Bond, if you hadn't got in the way here, if Columbo hadn't been there, Bond would have died on this sort of strange... I understand that they are trying to give the film more of a theme and an arc, and Melina's character does sort of go through this change, but I don't feel like it's tracked. And I feel like if this were a Timothy Dalton Bond film, I would totally buy it. But right, because it's Roger and it's such like a fantasy world anyway, I don't get any of that kind of like, oh no, vengeance is a bad thing.
So you're making my defense even easier because
oh God.
I would say because it is a Roger Moore film and it's got to be just a tad lighter, it can't be a Domino situation in Thunderball where Connery could go a little bit darker. You had to keep, and right or wrong, I'm not saying it's right, you had to keep the femme fatale a little bit more puritanical. And I think that's what they did. I think by him saying like, don't do that, stop, all this stuff, and then she doesn't even get the satisfaction of the kill, it's the producers and the writers saying like, no, that's going to be the pure form here. And then we've got all of these absolutely, again, fallible individuals, these dark individuals to continue.
I just don't see them as dark, I guess. Even Columbo, I'm like, I know that he's a smuggler and everything, but they make a very clear point of, he doesn't smuggle heroin, he doesn't do, people trafficking, anything like that. He just does good old pistachios, and they make a point of making him likable still.
True. But I think that's the lightness of those films at that time. I think they had to do that. But listen, good points. I mean, and by the way, I'm feeling this. This is good. This is like, this isn't like Muhammad Ali just kicking somebody to the curb. I love it. All right. So I have to ask you another question, and I'm giving you some of the tougher ones right up at the bat because I really do like the plot for a few reasons. I talked about the seriousness. I'm not going to be repetitive, but I also like the fact that there's something very fun. I'm going to use a Hitchcock term about a MacGuffin, and the ATAC is a MacGuffin. I mean, it starts from the very beginning. They've got the little kind of map and everything like that, and how to get through the ship and how to disassemble it, and
That's so cool.
isn't that pretty cool? That's a really
Yeah.
subtle thing. But I love the fact that there is a MacGuffin. There's something to chase. There's something to go after. It's kind of Indiana Jones-ish. Everybody's trying to get, the idol, the thing, the arc. What did you think about the plot? And what did you think about the MacGuffin aspect?
I mean, I agree with you. Like, I'm a big Hitchcock geek. I love MacGuffin as just like a plot device. It's like in the sense that it doesn't really matter what it is. It's just the heroes and villains are all after it, and that it's just the journey that we go on. That being said, I'm good with that to a degree. But by the time it gets to the conclusion, I just have this overwhelming feeling of, God, well, what was the point of all this then? Because Christatos is trying to get this British ATAC thing so that he can hand it over to the Soviets, which is represented here by General Gogol, who we've seen before as sort of like... the character is quite malleable. He can be sort of an ally or an adversary. But I don't feel like if he were to get the ATAC, that would be the end of the world, because they seem to be on a very good relationship with him in the other two films. So whether or not he gets it is like, and Bond just throws it off the cliff at the end anyway, which I'm like, well, that's a bit annoying. But then this is all confounded by the fact that we have Melina's whole revenge thing come to an end here as well, and she's not allowed her moment. I think it's a bit of a damp squib of a finale. For the most part, I'm okay with them just going along with, okay, we need this because plot and it'll get us from A to B, and that's all well and good. But when it actually comes down to just, I mean, God, we've gone from like guy wants to send globes to Earth to kill everyone to some bloke passing on a bit of computer to a friendly character from the last couple of films.
But you're also talking to the guy that tooth and nail defends Quantum of Solace, which is more real because there actually was a water war, so I'm loving the more realistic, not lasers in outer space, although I've liked Moonraker more because of you, so I do blame you for that. But for this, I do feel like it is a little bit more earthy. It's a little bit more realistic. And here's the other thing that I like, and this is a ringer, so prepare yourself. I love that unashamedly they wove so many Fleming moments from For Your Eyes Only throughout this whole thing, from the boat aspect to the Columbo discussions to so many of the different things. They actually brought it to life, and in many things may have even improved some of it. But what did you think about the Fleming-esque moments?
Oh, I like that. Yeah. In terms of some of the set pieces, when Bond and Melina are being dragged behind the boat, like obviously that's taken from Fleming's Live and Let Die, that's great. And you can kind of tell, it wasn't until many years later after first seeing the film that I did read all the Fleming works, and then you start to notice these things. But even when you don't know, it does stick out as something that it just feels different to a lot of the rest of what's going on in the film. There is just something about it that just feels Fleming-esque, like when he's at dinner with Christatos and Columbo's on the other table. I know a lot of that's taken from Risico, I think.
Yes.
And then obviously Melina from the For Your Eyes Only story and all that. So that's really nice. I do quite like that. And it makes sense that they would go back to Fleming at this stage after the departure of the previous couple of films.
Yeah, and I like how they took some of the characters that were very, quite frankly, ancillary in the books, light, the Havelocks, Gonzalez and things like that, and pushed them out. I don't know, and this may be a point that I give to you, actually. I don't know how I feel about Gonzalez. I think I don't know if it was the actor or what they had him do, or even some of his lines. I think it could have been more effective, especially against some of the ones that I really like. Like I like the Ministry of Defense, and I love Gogol. Who doesn't love Gogol? So these ancillary characters, when you put Gonzalez there, he doesn't come up to snuff. What do you feel about that?
Oh, completely agree. Yeah, Gonzalez is to say he has such a big role in the thing, killing Melina's parents. Yeah. He's just not much of a presence, really. It feels like he should be more of one. But I do feel like the Fleming element of the Christatos Columbo sort of, who's the villain? I think that's to the film's detriment, because I think we are prevented from having a really great villain performance because they are doing this, oh, is it Columbo, is it Christatos kind of thing. And Julian Glover's a really good actor who plays Christatos. I've liked him in an awful lot of things that he's done.
Right.
He plays a brilliant Indiana Jones villain, but here it's this whole mystery element that I just don't think stands up to repeat viewing anyway.
I agree in some parts with what you're saying. You know, first of all, when Columbo is having the conversation and he's taping it with Christatos and the whole discussion, that's right out of Fleming, which I really enjoyed that part significantly. But I will say this, I liked that it was almost a menagerie of bad guys in this film. You had Locke, you had Eric, you have Christatos, you have Columbo, and it sounds like there's a lot of people. There's even a multitude of henchmen here. But I like that this was kind of a team effort in what they did in the film. So you didn't have this like pinnacle main character like Goldfinger. You had Christatos and kind of a gang around him, which for me, as an adult and someone looking at this, and this is my filter, as a serious Bond film, I kind of liked it because I imagine that's how it is. There isn't this maniacal head of the organization. There's more of a Mission Impossible group effort. Hold on a second.
Sally Ride became the first American woman in space.
My Siri just went on. What did I say? Christatos? Hold on a second. Hey, Siri, shut up, please. Just like that. I'm not cutting that out of this.
I thought that was like the start of some I thought Danielle was like off camera and this was some like bit you were going to do.
Swing in like Melina.
Yeah, I wonder what the hell was going on. That was brilliant. I mean, I always forget that Locke's even a villain. Like every now and then people point him out as like, oh, he's a really good henchman. And I'm like, God, he makes no impact. I wish that there was someone with more personality. Oh, there he is. Yeah.
I mean, he is the man, from sitting, watching BB in a creepy way to having all that action to being the recipient of Roger Moore's infamous kick now. He doesn't say a lot, but what he does, he's very scary because he has no expression. He's like Vargas almost, if you remember Vargas from Thunderball, another one of your loves. He's got this kind of like creepy scariness background to him.
I think actually just thinking about it, so many of them are so silent. Like there's Locke, there's Eric Kriegler, there's Gonzalez doesn't have many lines either. There's Charles Dance who pops up in a small henchman part. Again, he doesn't have much to say.
Yeah.
And I think maybe that's why, because you do just have all of these silent, menacing types just poking their heads into scenes and glaring, and then that's kind of it until we get the reveal that Christatos is actually the villain.
Yeah. Well, let's have a palate cleanser. Maybe. I don't know. Let's talk about the Bond girl, Melina.
Okay.
Carol Bouquet. What did you think of her?
My thoughts about her are so tied up in what they have her character do with the whole vengeance thing, which I'm not a fan of. So in terms of what the actress is doing, I think she's fine. I think her relationship with Bond suffers from that same thing that Stacey Sutton has in A View to a Kill, where it feels more fatherly than romantic. Oh right.
Yeah. I thought you meant, yeah, go ahead. Keep going.
I know your trigger phrase is Stacey Sutton.
Triggered me. Yeah.
So yeah,
you triggered the butterfly.
So it's funny. I watched the film with the Roger Moore audio commentary as well for preparation for this. It's funny. He points out like the couple of moments that she smiles. He's like, oh, she's finally smiling. I think it seems to bother him that she's so kind of grumpy for most of it, as she should be because her parents were killed. But she's cool. But it's not a fun performance necessarily. Right. It's not. She's not allowed to have fun with it. How do you feel about her?
Yeah, I liked her a lot. First of all, and I think you said this, she is absolutely stunning.
Oh yeah,
absolutely beautiful. I think that it's interesting. You said fine. I think she's just a smidgen more than fine in the sense that her eyes and her expressions and everything like that, I think are very effective. She's got a very haunting look to her, and you'll like this. So I spent an evening with her This was very cool. So I was, real quick story, and that's me holding the crossbow, by the way, with her.
No.
Yeah.
Oh, that's incredible.
Yeah,
Oh my
that's a
God.
better shot. So basically, I was invited by Relais Chateau, the hotel chain, to do props and display in New York City because she was an ambassador many years ago, like 8-10 years ago. And they said, listen, we want you to decorate the room. It's going to be a cocktail hour. We'll invite you and your wife, gratis. And I knew that she was going to be there, but I thought like maybe I'd get a quick hello. And Danielle and I chatted with her for like 25-30 minutes. She was telling us about her olive farms. And I'm here to tell you, her skin was flawless. She looked amazing. She looked as good as she did back then. And she said it was from taking a shot of olive oil every day. I don't know why I don't do that now.
This is something I've heard actually. One of the whenever they ask like the world's oldest people like what their secrets to eternal life are, they did ask this one lady who was like 120 years old. She said the same thing about she has like a little like a shot of olive oil every day.
Yeah. So here's the thing. Here's why I'm recounting this whole story to you. I'm ruined. Like I can't tell you if she had a bad portrayal or a good portrayal because, I'm like, bowled over by meeting her and finding out, number one, she's a real person. She adores being a Bond girl. She's like, Bond woman, please. I'm a Bond girl. And the other thing that I found was, and this I think happens with probably a lot of Bond girls in real life, has much more of a personality. She's not this brooding soul looking into the camera, holding her dead mother's, scarf. She is just as happy-go-lucky. And when she smiles, she lights up the room. And she kept, going like this and touching, Mai's and Danielle's shoulder. And she was like, arms going around like this. And well, she wasn't like that in the movie. So I'm also having trouble peeling that off, my experience with the actress as well, if that makes sense.
No, totally. Yeah. And yeah, I think that is my issue with the character because it's not her, it's what the character has to do. She is so moody through most of it. And even in the Roger Moore audio commentary, like I said, he's even making fun of the fact that she's actually really lovely and chatty and vibrant, and she's just not able to show any of that here, which is fine. It's what they're doing. She's also dubbed, which is, this comes up every now and then. So her voice is not, I think you can hear her in some of the trailers or some of the behind the scenes stuff, her actual voice, which is so much nicer, I think, than the dubbed version.
Her voice in real life is lovely and her English is fine. Well, at least it is now. I mean, I don't get it.
Yeah.
So let's stick on the female side of things and talk about the other Bond girl in the movie, BB.
I'm so glad we're getting to BB. I'm dying to know what you think of BB.
Really? Oh, you want me to go first? The actress seems amazing. Never met her, have heard great things, and she really embraces the Bond community. That's what I've heard. It's just weird. And I understand, they had to do this, so Melina doesn't look like such a fresh young soul, to Roger Moore, but it's he's at least pushing her off and saying, I'm going to buy you an ice cream and acknowledging how young she is, but she just seems kind of goofy in the movie.
Yeah.
What do you think?
She's definitely comic relief character, I guess. She's a weird one because it's not often you find characters like this in Bond films, that she's not like a villain. She's not an ally as such. She is just this character sort of drifting through the thing, and she makes some introductions and she has a purpose to get Bond from A to B at a couple of points, but it's really odd. I don't dislike her as much as an awful lot of people, in the fact she's often lumped in with Stacey Sutton and Christmas Jones in that kind of irritating Bond girl bracket. I think she's kind of fine. I don't dislike her all that much, but it's weird that she's here.
So I have a question. Let me start with a statement and then I'll follow it up with a question. How official we're getting here. My statement is, for some reason, the age difference between Melina and Bond didn't bother me. And I was really thinking about it. Right. I was thinking about it afterwards. Like, what is it that's not bothering me? Because it's a huge age gap. It's like 25, 26 year difference. what is it? And then I was thinking maybe it's because Melina is so European. She's Greek. And I know this is going to sound terrible. Talk about like painting with a broad stroke, that many European women love sophisticated men, right? They don't kowtow to ageism. Either way, either very young or very old. They're much more open, quite frankly, and I'm saying this is the biggest compliment that I could, please, about it's not age that defines you. Sometimes it's experience and who you are. And I feel like that was the attribution that I was making, that it was my own experience of seeing men and women not plunk people down by age. You and I are very good friends. I don't see you as a 30-year-old. You don't see me as a 50-year-old. So I don't know. Maybe it was through that lens, but for you, did it bother you?
Oh yes. Well, I say bother me. It doesn't anger me as I'm watching the film, but I certainly don't. Again, it is that Stacey Sutton thing and I think it is something to do with how the characters are presented. Because I think about Octopussy and I think about Maud Adams. There is still like an age gap between her and Roger, and not too much more than some of these other Bond girls around the same time. But I think it's because Maud Adams has such an authority to her and such a presence to her that she feels like she's a match for him. And I think the same of Holly Goodhead, Anya as well. Whereas Melina, I think she just naturally feels submissive, and because she's out for revenge against her parents, and he is just this bit of a sagely kind of figure to her. It just feels like, and I think some of this is Roger's portrayal. I think he does it with Stacey Sutton as well. He just feels more fatherly in these parts. I don't get the romantic chemistry like I do with all of his other Bond girls, even like Solitaire, and because the Solitaire age difference was massive in Live and Let Die, but that didn't, stick out to me as such.
I love what you're. Okay, you know what? Yes, I'm going to 100%. Yes, yeah. In this debate, there's very few times where I'll say 100%, but you're right, because even his whole thing about the proverbs and the quotes and things like that are a more mentorship type, sage, uncle-y thing to do with her. And then the other thing that I'm thinking about now is, it's kind of icky, but it's almost like picking up a girl at a funeral. Like, somebody died and it's like, hey, the Havelocks are dead. I'm not saying I'm going to be your daddy, but I could be your daddy.
That's exactly it.
He didn't get that swarmy, but I'm going to so give you that one. I would agree. And now it just bothers me all over the place.
Well, I think it's one of those things, again, like, they meet like just before the Citroen car chase, and then after that car chase we see they've spent a night in a hotel, they're in a hotel to change or something, and there is this kind of, if this were any of the preceding Roger Moore films, there would have been some kind of romantic tryst here. There isn't. I don't get that romantic tension, but then later on when they're on the sleigh ride back to the hotel, I think they're trying for some kind of romantic something there, but it just doesn't. So then by the time they're, going skinny dipping together at the end, I'm like, I didn't track this. I didn't follow this at all.
I gotta give you that. All right. So Christados, we talked about the henchmen and things like that. Let's talk about a little bit about Columbo. So we've got,
nice.
And, I love these parts with Columbo. I love Topol. I mean, I think he was great in Fiddler on the Roof. He's just, to me, I really like the interaction between the two. I like the tete-a-tete when they have the drink and, Bond won't toast him. I love those moments. I love the pistachios. I love I love the whole thing of that. For some reason, every mountain in the world, this is the mountain that he scoped out. It's just goofy fun. The ending gets a little wonky with him. We could talk about that. But what did you think of Columbo overall?
I like him, actually. He's one of the better Bond allies. Like, he's got so much personality that the actor brings. I think my main issue with that is that I never think of him as an effective potential villain, because he just looks so kind of affable and nice, and particularly when compared to Christatos. But I like that. I think he's got good chemistry with Roger as well. I think that's a really nice pairing. Yeah.
Good. All right. So we've delved into characterization, music, sound. Bond is an individual character. Hell, we even covered ageism. I want to lighten the mood a little bit. I mean, people have been watching this for 42 minutes. We've got to lighten this. So Let's talk about the fun factor. And I want to start off with the stunts, because I mentioned something about the stunts. I mean, you've got, oh my gosh, you've got skiing, you've got motorcycles, you've got boats, you've got helicopters, you've got Bond using, gates to like smash people, across and trip them up. I mean, there's a lot of fun moments with the stunts, but what did you think about the action in the film?
You know what? I do quite like it. I think as you know, I think you mentioned it earlier on. This is kind of has the reputation of being the more grounded one, and it is more grounded. But there are still some really incredible stunts. That stunt where I think it was Rick Sylvester, wasn't it, who did the off the mountain at the end, and then he's falling, and then the thing catches him. It's phenomenal. It's a proper breathtaking, brilliant stunt moment. It's terrific, and I was
so tense watching that this time, even though I've seen it a million times. And that's what I want. I want suspense. I don't want to know Bond is always going to be okay, even though he will.
Yeah, and I think that's a real testament to the film and the stunt work and everything, following up like one of the biggest battles that the series has ever had in outer space with lasers and explosions and all these kinds of things. And here it's like Bond climbing up a cliff, but it's really good. I wish that the rest of the climax were as fun as that, like when everyone else gets up. I think it kind of, But no, that's awesome. I love the car chase as well with the Citroen. That's really nice. And
unique, because again, they had the most incredible Lotus in the previous one turn into a submarine, and it's like, wait a minute, where do we go from here? And it's like, oh my gosh, I think that the stunts and the action, and it was interesting, Calvin, I haven't seen it in a long time, and when I watched it for this debate, I actually went into it going like, oh, okay, it's going to be more of a, there's going to be monologues and talking and plot points and things. And I walked away like that was an action romp. Like I really felt that was good. Even you're not going to agree with this, so I'm going to prep you. Ready? Even when all of the people do make it up to the top in the very strange Wizard of Oz, basket that they used, that was the most impractical thing. Snip, snip. But what I felt was, when they did get up the top, it was a mini version of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. You had this little kind of infighting going on and smacking around and shooting. I kind of had fun with it. Even, Eric, pummeling out of the window was a very satisfying moment, but you're not a huge fan of that last part. Nah,
definitely not. It's when it comes down to like Columbo and Christatos like scuffling on some steps as they try to get up. I'm just like, oh god, yeah, this is what it's come down to. No, I wish it were more of like a full-on battle, but they take out an awful lot of Christatos henchmen like right away, and it just feels very small. There is the suspense with Gogol coming in the helicopter and everything, and he's just ignoring everything when he steps off. He's all these dead bodies around, like, whatever, I'll take that ATAC.
Yeah, he's so chill. I do love that. All right, keeping with the fun factor, this is something we always talk about without fail. There's a couple of topics that you and I really enjoy covering, and some of them have been eye-opening, but let's talk about Q in this. Q plays some significant roles, and I found that Q wavers between kind of fun, doing his thing. You get the Q environment, also maybe a little bit bored in this, and then really snarky lines, which I love when he's got snarky lines against Roger Moore, like when he pulls the beard back. But what did you think about the Q scenes?
I mean, I like that even for this one, when they were going with the more serious tone, they still had like the umbrella with the thing that comes out the spikes. They still had fun in that way. Poor Desmond doesn't have all that much to do here. He just has to sort of faff around with that identigraph, and so I like that he gets to go on location, I guess, but you can always have more Desmond.
I'm smelling a theme. Maybe even like a thumbnail title. Calvin is just fine with this film. He's fine. Not even meh. Yeah. He's not fair, but he's not meh. He's somewhere in the middle, which is fine. So I can absolutely see what's going on here, for sure. That was my bad segue for another Q gadget that Bond uses to spy on Gonzalez. An actual item, by the way, which is very cool.
Oh, no way.
Oh yeah, this was an actual thing that Tasco made, and it is a half camera, half binoculars. It actually takes pictures of what you see in the binoculars. It's an actual item that they used.
Oh my God, I had no idea. Wow.
Yeah. Crazy,
Huh.
right?
That's incredible.
Yeah, I just made your weekend. Admit it.
Yeah. I'm going to be
I know.
eBaying these things.
All right. I usually start this conversation, but this next part, I'm going to have you start because I don't think you're a babe in the woods anymore. I think you are a veteran of what I'm going to ask about next. Style, Bond style. That could be anything from clothing to food to environments. What did you think about the Bond style in this film?
Oh, I thought, and I think it's, as you mentioned earlier on about the Fleming influence, you can really tell that they're putting that in here. Like, it's very deliberate. You have him in restaurants ordering the food and the wine. I think, yeah, at one point the Christatos does say, oh, I recommend this particular kind of wine, and Bond's like, actually, no, I think this other one's better. And that's just a really nice little, it's nothing to do with plot, but it is just a nice little character moment. Honestly, all the way through this one, I was watching it thinking about the Bond lifestyle moments, and I was thinking, yep, this is why David likes this. Because I think Roger looks great, actually. I think his clothes are really fantastic in this one. Oh, actually, no, caveat. I don't know how I feel about that jacket he wears when he's at Gonzalez thing. I always want to call it a cardigan. It's not a cardigan, but
no, it's considered actually a blouson.
A blouson.
Yeah, it's actually called a blouson. The way it blouses at the bottom.
Okay.
Yeah, with it cinches. Calvin, I love that jacket, and I love it because there's a version of it that he also has when he goes to Cortina. And he has kind of like the fur collar and everything like that.
Oh right, yeah. Oh, see, I liked that. Yeah, no, it was just that at the Gonzalez party that I didn't. Yeah,
I loved. So I'm with you. Yes. I love the style of this film. I think he looked the money in every single shot. I think the clothing was perfect. Even yellow short sleeve shirt. That Sea Island short sleeve shirt. The V-neck when he's getting keyholed and being pulled through. I think it's just so simple. It's just kind of a t-shirt. But I also like the fact that Bond in all of these things, like when he is out to dinner and he chooses the different wine, which is a bit of an insult. When Cristato says, "Oh, it's from my personal hometown," he says, "Yeah, it sucks." Probably not good, but I do love the lifestyle moments, and I think Roger is a gentleman in real life, and I think he pulls it off every style moment without question.
Yeah, totally. And I never think of Roger as being like like Connery, Brosnan, Craig, they've all got that kind of heartthrob thing going on, and I never really think of Roger in that. But in this one, there are some shots where when he's walking along the beach with the Countess, and he's like sort of like he looks so good, and it's and as you say in the shirt when he's the t-shirt rather when he's pulled off and through the coral and everything, he looks really like good, like physically. He just looks like it doesn't look like he's melting or anything like that. Like if you do a kill, he kind of looks a little like kind of melting a little bit. Well, I'm at my age, I'm just saying a little. You could say a lot because we've got you and I have kind of the Melina Roger Moore age difference. That's all I'm saying. That's all I'm saying. By the way, still the fun factor, I think, but you tell me, and you can disagree. We didn't talk about locations. And you've got Corfu, you've got Cortina, you've got Saint Cyril. By the way, all C's. Interestingly enough, all C's. Who knew? But what did you think of the locations? You know what? They're not some of my favorites, and I feel like a big chunk of this is because you've been on holidays in Europe to I don't think to any of these places exactly, but to Portugal, Greece, Mediterranean, and I feel like it's a bit too familiar for me, maybe. So when they're like Bond and Melina are like wandering through the town and the guys coming up to them with the figs, and which again I quite like as a lifestyle moment that we're just enjoying the scenery for a bit. But it doesn't have that exoticism for me personally that I like in Bond. I think they're fine, but it lacks that for me.
You are, just so using the F word here. Calvin uses the F word. That's going to be the title of the thumbnail. Calvin uses the F word to describe Roger Moore, poor Roger Moore's movie. That's it.
Oh no, poor Roger Moore.
I love the locations. I think that Glenn highlights them really well. So here again, I'm ruined because it's hard to see, but I've been to Cortina. and they actually have a snow globe with Roger Moore skiing in his outfit.
Oh, that's so cool.
Can you believe they have this in the
Huh.
little gift shops? Because they love that. So walking around Cortina, you are transported to the movie. It looks exactly like in the movie, without a doubt. I would imagine
cool.
Corfu's probably similar, absolutely
Yeah.
gorgeous. But I think it was highlighted well, especially, the beginning of the film is this whole kind of stark, industrial pipes and warehouses. And then it goes to something very beautiful. And I tell you, I wouldn't mind going to Saint Cyril as well. Just it looks absolutely beautiful. So I actually do give it thumbs up for locations here. I love how we're disagreeing. So I think it's more than just fine.
Yeah.
My gosh. All right, Calvin, we have traveled far and wide in this discussion. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, and I thought this might happen, I would say that many of these discussions, when we have these discussions, we kind of have a moment where, you pull me up, I pull you up,
Yeah.
etc. This is like pretty separated. I think, I'm still in love with this film and you're still in fine with this film. Would you say that's correct?
I think that's spot on, actually, which I find odd because certainly from some of these ones that we've had where you've been the defender and I've been the challenger, I certainly dislike some of the other ones more than this one. But maybe that, I don't know, maybe in a weird way that means that I'm more likely to come around on some elements, whereas this one is such a kind of a par and then slightly below par in places entry for me. So a lot of it I'm just like, yeah, it's fine. But and I think going back to that TV thing that I said at the start as well, there is just a certain look to the film that just, it feels very TV to me.
I looked for that this time around, and I will acquiesce to that. It doesn't have that beautiful richness of like On Her Majesty's Secret Service or even Moonraker, quite frankly, where the colors of Moonraker are so vivid and beautiful. And a lot of that is not, I don't think, because of just the film stock, or I think it's what they filmed. There's so many, look at his clothes and look at the backgrounds. Look where they filmed. It's a lot of beiges.
Yeah.
There's a lot of sepia tones. It's almost like, Spectre, but for real. And so I think I come away with an interesting palette of, it doesn't taste like a colorful Technicolor bombastic film.
I think that is it. Beige.
Yeah,
that word. Just like, I think that sums up my whole kind of feeling about this one, to be honest.
Yeah.
Saying that though, oh, sorry, go on.
No, go ahead.
Well, there is one thing that I really wanted to get your opinion on.
Oh, yes.
One of the more infamous Bond movie endings is in this film, where we have a Margaret Thatcher impersonator, and it might actually be...
And this watch that he gets the message on, yep, that's the watch
so cool.
right there.
Yes.
But go ahead.
I kind of like it because it's so silly. It feels
Mr. Bond.
It feels so out of tone with the rest of the thing for me. But I'm curious to know what you, as a lover of this film, like, is that a really sour, like, not even cherry, I suppose? It's just this really horrible little finishing touch, or how do you feel about it?
I have fun with it the way I have fun with the delicatessen moment, but I feel like it doesn't need to be in the movie. I think it's like one of these things where they bookended it. It's like, we need a Blofeld, funny, gaggy thing, and let's do a gaggy thing at the end. So people leave the theater just with their popcorns and bouncing around. And if they had the ending where they're just swimming and they just show the silhouettes of Bond and Melina swimming away, skinny dipping, whatever, I would have been much more satisfied. It's schlocky. And the other thing is, even showing Margaret Thatcher's husband, look at the camera and get slapped and things like that. It's like, all right, but I will say this. All right, have a little taste of this and let me know what you think. Imagine today if they had your prime minister in the new movie. I think it was pretty ballsy of them to say, something, we're going to have, 10 Downing Street, and we're going to have Margaret Thatcher, very well-respected individual, in a very comical moment. Would they have Boris and not Boris, but your Boris, in a comical moment today. I don't think they would do that.
Yeah, definitely not. It's a really weird, because Bond doesn't often do that, where it kind of places itself in time. So, but they make a point out of, like, earlier on, nice cup, a little bit. They make a point of it earlier on, like, she'll have our guts for garters when the officials are talking to the minister. So they're very much placing this at this point in time, which is interesting, and they don't do that kind of thing that often, I don't think, mentioning real world figures and that.
Yes. So we'll see. Maybe No Time to Die. Speaking of the cup flying up there, yeah, maybe they will. Who knows? Maybe. No, I don't think so. How would they? It would be 2019.
Oh yeah, that's true. It'd be Theresa May, I guess.
I can't keep track.
Neither can I, and I live here.
I try not to listen to the news, but that's just me. Calvin, I've taken the liberty this time around to add up points throughout this whole thing. Carry the 9, 16. Danielle, could you check my math? Thank you. 54 to 3. It's a clear winner. 4 Years Only is a good film. Sorry, it's not just fine.
Oh no! Oh, that's a shame. That's a shame. I demand a recount.
And you'll get it because I love you. I love you. Calvin, thank you so much for doing this. I always enjoy these debates. Everybody's a winner. People listening, you, me. This is just so much fun to do.
Oh no! Thank you so much for inviting me back on, because these debates are always so much fun to just chat and get a different perspective and an excuse to revisit the films after a while, and maybe a bit of a different perspective. It's great. Thank you very much.
Absolutely. We'll have to find out if we can move on to a new film, debate it, discuss it, and see if one stands out to be a little bit better than fine. Who knows? We'll have to see. But anyway, this is my guest, my wonderful brother-in-arms, Calvin Dyson, and me, David Zaritsky, for the Bond Experience. And we'll see you all real soon. Take care.
See ya.
Thanks for watching this episode. If you want to be up on the latest from the Bond Experience, just click on this subscribe and subscribe to our channel. You're going to get all the latest and greatest information, plus some exclusive content. And by the way, speaking of content, here's something especially for you, just because we know you. Talk to you soon.